Hello everyone, and welcome to part 4 of the Beardlib Editor tutorial. Today I'm going to be going over some basic layouts that can happen in Heist, hopefully demonstrating a little bit better of what we did over here with opening the door, just something like that. Alright, we'll be also going over some new elements and what they do. So, I tried to do this initially with showcasing how I make it and doing it with you. That took way too long. Just to do this door right here while explaining everything took me 15 minutes, and I want to do all three. So what I'm going to do instead is I just made them, and I'm going to showcase how it works and how it happens. Alright, so to start off, I'm going to start off with this door. So there was a couple things that I learned with the door that I'm going to teach you. So we have this door here, and I'm trying to get it, but it's not working. On it, we have this little C4 unit, Gen Plant C4, right there. So to start off, I kept it as Viz Hide. If it's as Viz Show, it shows this. You don't want to have that. And if it's default it is hidden, but it will have an outline saying you can interact with it. So I didn't want that, so I hid it as Viz Hide. When I walk up to the area though, I do two things. One, I do this unit sequence, which we learned, and it just sets it to interaction enabled. Alright. There was one thing though. There was interaction enabled, staying interactable C4.1 and C4.3. So what is the difference between interaction enabled, interactable C4.1 and C4.3? So we use, what I learned was when you walk up to it and you don't have any equipment, it says you need C4. That's pretty standard. And how you get the C4 is with this thing called an equipment. Equipment is what you get above your health bar, which could be everything from boards, blueprints, key cards, and all that sort of stuff, and C4. What you can see here though, there's multiple different kinds of C4. So what that interaction can do is it can detect, does the player have the C4 I'm looking for? So the C4, the interactable C4.3 checks if you have C4.3. The C4.1 checks if you have C4.1, and the just the interaction enabled checks if you have C4. All right, because that I tried all three. It will only work if I have C4. So I give C4 and I can interact with the door. There's another thing that I learned. We'll go into the game and showcase that factor right now. Just ignore what's over there. So, like I said, I walk into the door, the highlight comes on, and I get C4 on the HUD. There's one thing I learned though, was the C4 times 3 and the C4 times 1. With the equipment element, you can set the amount. So if I wanted to have 5 C4.1s and I wanted to have 5 C4.3s, if I execute them both, you'll see that doesn't happen. I only get 3 C4 and then 1 C4. Now, that's because the C4 times 1 has a maximum within the code to only give 1 C4 max. So I only get 1 out of the 5. And the C4.3, same thing, but I get 3. So each equipment has their own maximum. You can't go beyond that maximum, but you can give your own amount within the element. now that I have C4, that one, I can walk into the door and I can place the explosives. That is only done with the enabling of the interaction. But now that the unit is there, I need to detect when the player interacts with it. When I did it before, I'd interact with it and it would, all it would do is it would pop up just like that. Right. It's not really supposed to do the beeping, but it did. So it would pop up just like that if I interacted with it, which is not what I want to do. So if I hide, if I walk into it again, the thing isn't enabled. So I'm just gonna I can't walk into the area again because this only has a trigger time of 1. So I'm just gonna execute this to enable the interaction again. So because of that, if I interacted with it, I need to detect when I interacted with the C4, as you can see right here. And then I needed to have that go to a unit sequence. And I needed to figure some things out because there's this gen plant C41, which is the unit. If I click on this, you'll see something. The trigger expulsive isn't there. And you might be asking, I typoed that. That's not right. If I go to, which you can, at the bottom here, you can see this thing. I didn't teach you this, but I'm going to teach you it now. So it says linked by UST C4 added. So it means that there, when this gets executed, it's linking to this one. So it's linked by this element. And linking to means when this hits this, it's going to do these 3 things. It's going to go to this explosion element, and with the trigger list, it's going to trigger these 2 things. So if I click here, it'll send me right to the unit. So if I click on this, you'll see here, it does say trigger expulsive, but on the unit sequence, it doesn't. Sometimes the unit has something shown in the mesh variant, but the unit sequence doesn't. Don't know why, but I know that I can type in trigger expulsive here and it will work just fine. Now, as you heard earlier, there was that beeping and then the C4 disappeared. I timed that out and I figured out that the time is 5 seconds. So I want 5 seconds after the C4. Oh, whoopsies, didn't mean to do that. So I want 5 seconds after I plant and interact with the C4, which will happen at 0, 0. 5 seconds after, I want the door to open up. Thankfully enough, there is a sequence that does an explosion, so that helps. But there was one thing that happened, and that was, one, there was a sound effect, but there was no physical effects like a flare of explosion and dust in the air, and I wanted to have that. And 2, if I stood right next to the door, it dealt 0 damage, which is not accurate to how a C4 would do. So to do the damage and the effect, we have this explosion element, which I showcased over here. So I just put it over here and I set it up. I already had the sound with the door, but I didn't want to have it play again, so I set the sound event to no sound instead of trip mine explode. Everything else here is pretty much default except for I changed the player damage to be a little bit higher and I set the range to be 300, just like that. And that is managed on executed list here 5 seconds after, same time. With this, I can interact with the door. It'll make the beeping happen. And it will explode with all its fancy effects. I took some damage out of my shield, and I'm good. Right, and I can walk through the door. There's no interactions there. That's fine. That works perfectly. Then I wanted to make a secure area and a way to escape. So I needed to add the van, and I needed to add this goal marker. These are both units. All right. And what I needed to do was have this area right here. It's hard to click, so I'm going to type secure right here. I set it up to match the width and length of the van. Actually, I should probably do it like this. There you go. So now I set it up so it matches the width and height and everything of the van. And I need it to detect when there's loot that goes within the area. So, and I need to make sure it happens multiple times. What I have it trigger though is this thing called a carry. We talked about this earlier with the loot bags. Over here, there's a carry ID. So the carry handles what happens to the bags. Ignoring everything else here, we see there's an operation and a type filter. So the operation, we can hit secure, silent secure, freeze, and all these sort of things. Most of these are variations. Secure is if you throw the bag in and it'll pop up on the top of the screen. You secured this. This is what the value was. Silent secure doesn't show it, and I'll be going over one of these later. I wanted, though, to secure the bag. All right. So when I throw the bag in, it'll go to this, and it will check, was the bag diamonds? If it wasn't, I have another one over here that just says, was it a bag? If it was a bag, secure it. So that's good. But I check, was it diamonds? If it was, this carry X element will execute, securing the bag. And of course, if it executes, it sends a signal to the counter. This counter, the counter secured bags, just has a 3 in it. What a counter does is, when it's executed, it will minus this number by 1. All it does is minus. There are, in fact, though, ways to operate it, filter it, and all that sort of stuff. We'll be going over that later. All I wanted to do was have it count down from 3 to 0. Once this counter hits 0, so I put it back in, goes to 2, put it back in, goes to 1, put it back in, 0. Once it hits 0, it itself will execute. So it'll do these two things. I have this toggle here. What a toggle is just like with the enable and disabling of the unit, which enabled and disabled, the toggle will enable or disable, just like that. So I wanted to make sure that it enables the area escape, which is here. By default, as you can see, it is disabled. That makes sure that if I walk into this, I don't just escape instantly. It needs to make sure that I put all the bags in. One thing I forgot to do with this, though, is I need to set this from 1 player to all. So if there's multiple players in the heist, all the players need to be within this area to escape. What it also did, though, was it went to this unit sequence and set the marker here to show. And there's one thing that I will be explaining when I get into the game, into the playtest mode, about this. Because as you can see here, it's showing. But when you playtest the game, it isn't showing. So we enabled the escape area, and I wanted it to end the mission. And that's all it does. So I didn't want to actually end for playtesting reasons, so I went ahead and disabled this, but there's a mission end script here. I set it to success. But I wanted to make sure that when I left, that I knew that I left, that it worked, that this element worked. So I set it to a debug. This is very helpful for debugging and testing your map. All it does is you can type in whatever you want here. I typed in you escape, and that will pop up on the left hand saying, hey, this element triggered because you escaped. That's what should have happened. This debug will only appear when you're in the editor. It will not appear if you buy or play the heist through CrimeNet. So you don't have to worry about that. That's only in the editor that you'll see this text. So I got that. Then I wanted to showcase how to drill a vault. So I set the little goal marker, just 2x3. I went to a different heist to figure out what this unit was because I didn't know what it was called. Found the goal marker, I put it there. I got a unit called Drill Large Thermic, which is the thermal drill. And then I wanted to make it so we get a loot bag with the equipment bag, just like in Bank Heist. I wanted to have it so you take that bag, you throw it onto this area here, and it will spawn the thermal drill so you can interact with it. So I need to detect when a bag was in the area. So I set it up just like the secure area over here. I set it up so it detects when there's loot. Equipment bag is counted as loot. Some bag isn't counted as loot, and other things like that. You'll just have to test and figure out which kind of bag it counts as. I tried to test it as equipment, but that didn't work. So once it detects there's loot in here, it'll filter it for equipment bag, and it will remove it. Remove just deletes the bag. Doesn't secure it, just deletes it. Then I wanted to set it up so, because for right now, as you saw here, I deactivated it. I wanted to set it up so that the goal marker disappeared and the thermal drill was set to activate so I could interact with it. Alright. And then I also wanted to detect the thermal drill again to detect when it's done. Now this doesn't show up in the list, but again, this is very general. If there's a computer hack or a thermal drill, most likely the sequence to tell when it's done is called timer done. So I just type that in, and it will go to a unit sequence because I wanted to detect when it was done to open the door, and also when it's done, it doesn't disappear. It just stays there. So I wanted to deactivate the drill, which will hide it and remove anything about it. And I wanted to open the door, so I just chose, there's a lot of options in here, but I just wanted to say it opened. Alright, so that's what that does. And there's one thing. When I go into here and launch into the heist, you'll see the escape zone is gone and there's bags there. How did I set that up? So it's got all these things right there. It's all going to an area spawned. You want to use this right on the spawn point. All it does is it detects when the players are actively in the heist. So once the players are actively in the heist, what I have it do is it spawns all the loot bags I need, and it also goes to the starting unit sequence, which hides the goal marker. So now I can walk up to here. We got the diamonds, which if I throw it in, you see it secures. The bag is still there because I do not remove it. I can secure the money bag because this carry ID wasn't detecting for diamonds. This one was. This one wasn't. So the money gets secured via this one. The diamonds get secured via this one. I can throw another jewelry bag in. As you can tell, this counter I threw 3 bags in. If I didn't have the diamonds filter on here, this would have executed and shown the escape cell, but it didn't. Because here's the final jewelry bag. And I wanted to do one test over here and show that filter for the equipment bag. If I throw the bag in here, you'll see it does not delete the jewelry bag because of that filter. If I come back over here, throw the jewelry bag in, now it's detected that I've thrown 3 jewelry bags in, and I can walk to the escape zone. Again, on the left side, you can see you escaped. That's the debug area. If that was not disabled, I would have gone to the end screen and completed the heist. I didn't want that to happen though for testing purposes. So I grabbed the equipment bag and I can throw it into the zone. But wait, it didn't work. So I wanted to showcase this live. That's because when I threw that jewelry bag into the zone, it detected, hey, there's loot within the zone. I'm going to execute. So it executed down the line and went to this carry. And it said, hey, is it equipment bag? Is that the type of bag that's in there? No. So it's not going to execute. And it didn't do anything. This area trigger still executed. And as you can see here, there's a trigger times of 1. Because it executed, now it won't trigger anymore. So I can fix that by just setting it to 0. And you can see when I set it to 0, it instantly secured the bag and got rid of the goal marker. I can no longer pick up this bag because that is a part of the unit. And you can see that the thermal drill I can now interact with. And put it in just like that. I might have misaligned it slightly, ignore that. You can see it just works just like that. I'm going to fast forward through this. And you can see it'll finish. And the door will open. So I might have forgotten one step. That was, so it deactivates, so it gets rid of the little icon there. I forgot one step, and that is set the unit sequence to power off. No.
This is what I always dreamed of since Spider-Man 2. Including I dreamed of
Alright, so it finishes the drill, and it opens. Just like that. So I did have to do one minor edit. I'll show you that over there, because as you can see, the bags are still there. I messed up the first time while doing this. I learned on the fly what that issue was. Let me just walk over here so it's not as loud. What that issue was I thought that deactivating the drill would mean the drill would disappear. All that did was it got rid of that little icon that shows the timer, and it also turned off the sounds and everything. The drill was still there. Now, I couldn't find an interaction to disable the drill, so what I did instead was to set it up to disable the unit, just like that. So once it was done, all I did was deactivate to remove the GUI, little icon that tells the timer, and I removed the unit. As you can see, I do not walk into the unit itself, and I can walk freely into the vault. Just like that. So as you can see, that's some few basic setups on how to do. So as you can see, that was a few setups on how to use the knowledge that we learned over here with interacting with unit to sequence, element. As you can see, that was a few different setups on how to use what we learned over here, which was using elements to trigger elements and elements to trigger units and vice versa, to create these few little setups of opening the door with C4, securing bags and enabling the escape, and drilling a vault and opening it up when it's done. What we'll be learning next time is using this. You might have seen this in the background throughout the video. We're going to be creating the most painful part, in my opinion, navigation. Navigation is how an AI will walk throughout that map. As a player, we can just use WASD. The AI has to use navigation, which tells the AI that they can walk here. So I'm going to be creating some navigation throughout this level with you on the fly, teaching you how to make it.